Are your taste buds worth more than the life of an animal?
Am I right in saying that in the dairy industry they do separate the baby from the mother?
What about dogs? Is it moral to eat dogs?
About 9 years ago, I used to call myself a vegetarian, and at the time I was still eating fish, and I bumped into a stranger and we got talking about diet, and I was like, yeah, I've been a vegetarian for 2 months now, and just had my salmon sandwich for lunch. And he said to me very calmly, that's not a vegetarian. And I was sort of put up about that. I was like, yeah, I am. I'm a vegetarian. I was quite defensive. And he then pointed out that no, to be a vegetarian, you don't eat fish. But I was in denial about it. I did not want to admit that I'd been wrong. So I just went along. I was like, no, that's not true. That's not true. That person just didn't push it, didn't argue, because they may have seen that I just wasn't going to change my point of view at that time. But he was right. It made total sense. And my mindset in that moment was a little bit of a skirt, meaning I didn't want to accept the truth and I was more likely to talk about something else. And what I've found is when I talk to people and ask them direct questions about their diet, and direct questions like, what's your opinion on animals being put into gas chambers? What's your opinion on animals being put into blenders? Or if they've said a point and then I've countered it with the truth, they'll often skirt and go and talk about another subject, because there's an element of human beings that sometimes we have denial and we don't want to admit that we're wrong. Even though there's nothing wrong with being wrong, we have an inbuilt thing that we don't want to be seen as second best, we don't want to be seen as wrong, essentially. And then what we go into is into denial and into sometimes people lie, sometimes they just change the subject. So skirt for me is when you change the subject. So I've got a couple of clips now that I'll show you where I've asked people direct questions and then they've talked about something else.
What about dogs? Is it moral to eat dogs? Is that okay?
No, because they're seen as a pet.
But what's the difference?
But would you have a cow as a pet?
On an environmental level and on the animal's welfare, is there any benefits you could see?
Yeah, so in regards to veganism, yeah, of course animals are being treated terribly, but if you look at, human beings eating animals,
Yeah.
It's no different to like a leopard eating an animal itself, or a lion eating an animal.
Yeah, the difference is that you're not an obligate carnivore.
Am I right in saying that in the dairy industry they do separate the baby from the mother?
Yes and no.
Yeah, I mean,
At some point, yes.
At some, but it's like everything. It's like everything else. It's like human. Do you still live with your mum now? Do you still live with your mum and dad? You've been separated from your mum and dad, haven't
But
you?
I wanted to.
You wanted to. But there's people that move out. I moved out. I've started my own family. Eventually, we've just had a little baby girl. In years to come, she'll then move out. You see what I mean? So,
but we're consenting to moving out. But what's happening to the animals is we take their baby away when they don't want to, right?
No.
Whoa. Were you bottle fed or were you fed on
Breastfed.
breastfed? Yeah. Well, some people bottle feed, don't they? Which is the same sort of thing. The calf,
but they don't get their baby taken away.
The calf will be weaned from mother at a first stage after the fed colostrum, and then reared separately for health and positive reasons, because the cow is essentially there to produce milk. Certain animals, like what we call suckler cows, will stay with their calves.
But we do take them away. I'm right in saying that.
Of course there would be, yes.
If they're in the milk, for milking.
In the dairy, in short.
And then
Let's talk about the act. You're taking an animal's life against their will.
What is happening?
What is that?
What is happening?
Is that moral, to take an animal's life against their will? Call it murder. Call it taking an animal's life against their will. Okay? How is that moral? It's not humane to take an animal's life.
Can I just talk about the terminology?
Let's talk about the act.
Can I just say animals kill animals, though?
Yeah, but
so how does that... I mean,
animals rape each other in the wild too. We cannot point to nature and say that that's moral, OK? We're a civilised society. To take someone's life against their will is savagery.
Actually, I think...
Would you agree? Do you think it's humane?
It's not my point. I'm just.
I think when you have to.
Are your taste buds worth more than the life of an animal?
Yeah, I can. That's like one of your speech things that you say. Yeah, she said it to me already. Yeah.
Yeah, but is it?
That's part of your
but what's the answer?
So,
what's the answer to the question?
Yeah, but
Are your taste buds worth more than the life of an animal?
No, because what you're trying to do, you're trying to make it look like me consuming some beef.
Yeah.
Yeah, makes it look like I think that me eating that beef is more important than
you yourself. You yourself just said. You yourself just said that you do these things because you enjoy the taste of it.
Yeah.
So it's not that you haven't answered the question. Why is it extreme to not take the life of an animal if we don't have to, compared to putting them in farms, taking them to a slaughterhouse? Objectively, what's more extreme?
Because it's farming. Farming has been around way before vegan was even a speckle of understanding.
But morality is something that changes with time. Now we look through our history.
There's more things that you can be working on morality.
But why
in this universe than killing cows?
But why are you provided moral justification to take the life of an animal with your money just because a human is suffering? Just because something bad's happened in the Middle East does not provide you justification to pay for a cow to die in this country, right?
You're comparing a human
It's not
with a
comparison.
Yes, you are.
Listen, you
Yes,
don't.
you are.
You
You're
do not.
comparing.
No,
Like,
it's not a
in your mind, a
comparison.
sentient being here is all equal.
But that's not what I'm saying
Is
to
that what
you.
you're saying to me?
I'm saying to all life should be treated with the basic respect that we grant ourselves.
Because there's a whole multitude of reasons why they might have wanted to talk about something else, but as human beings, we need to be honest. We need to, if we're eating dead animals, then we need to be honest about what we're doing, and we need to just be truthful. And if somebody asks us a tough question, then we should really answer the tough question, because if we're comfortable with the beings that we're eating and the processes that are involved, and we are complicit in those practices, then we should be able to admit our feelings about them, our opinions about them, and not want to change our view on them, and not skirt and talk about another topic. So what's interesting is this happens a lot, and while I'm having these conversations with people, in my head I'm like, yep, they just avoided the question, or I quite often pull people up on it and just ask them the same question again, to sort of remind them that I haven't forgot that they didn't answer the question. And now I've brought this up, people might be more aware of when you ask those direct questions and people skirt to something else. And also, I think like I said earlier, I think we do need to ask these tough questions. We need to be for people to be honest, and we need to push them, because a lot of people, when you start pushing them on the truth, they align themselves with their true feelings, A lot of people do disagree with pigs being put into gas chambers, or castration, or artificial insemination, where, in the dairy industry, the cows can be artificially inseminated, and these are the hard truths that come with animal products, and we need to be honest, we need to be transparent about these practices. And for those that are still participating and contributing and funding those industries, we need to ask them direct questions so that they can contemplate and make up their own minds and think more deeply about their actions. That's the end of the video. Boom!